The views and opinions expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
This is Point of View, celebrating a world record-breaking 62 years of quality public affairs programs from the studios of WDEF News 12, Chattanooga. Hello, I'm your host, Maurice Lewis. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Point of View. I'd like to welcome back an old friend. You've been here before, Sabrina Smedley. I was going to say Sabrina Turner Smedley. We'll drop that. Sabrina, as you know, is one of the up-and-coming stars, which he won't admit, on the Hamilton County Commission. Sabrina, welcome again to the show.
Great to be here,
Evelina Holmes, you've been here before, but the call came out to you today to put your education hat on. I know that you are a noted community activist, but today you've got a little bit of both working for you.
Right.
And the other guy who's new with us, Joe Wingate, you're a school board member. And when I met you just before the show started, I asked you, I said, why on earth did you take the position? And I saw your answer. Your answer was you showed me the photograph of your children.
That's right.
Why is that so much important to you?
Well, I'm a lifelong educator, and I have taught at practically every level from 6th grade up into university level. I currently teach at Chattanooga State, and I taught for 10 years in Hamilton County in the school system. And I have 3 young children who are at the beginning of their educational journey, a first grader and twins who are in pre-K, and my wife is also an educator, and we just wanted to get involved and try to make a positive impact on what's going on in our city and our town. We all know we live in a great town, and we want our education to be as top-notch as the rest of our city.
You know, that's an interesting statement that you make, that we all live in a great town. We do, but the school system is definitely not matching up. It's way, way down at the bottom. And part of the premise of today's program is to look at, for the money spent, how good are the schools here in Hamilton County? Since we're going to start to talk about money, that's your bailiwick as the education chair.
Right. Well, as the education chair, I have taken this position very serious and started doing my homework and really dug in. You may be aware the past 2 years we were approached for a tax increase. For additional funding to education. So I wanted to make a very informed decision. And I started looking at the money that's being allocated to the Department of Education. And in a nutshell, here in Hamilton County, our students, if you look at each student, the funding per student is $450 per student above the state average. Yet our results continue to be in the bottom third.
And especially in the areas where they are heavily populated by people of color. Well,
that may be true. And I say that because there are some results and some weaknesses within our school system that have been highlighted by the Chattanooga 2.0 initiative. And I know that they looked at some of the inner city schools, and that's how that they got some of the numbers that they got. You know, for example, 65% of our 3rd and 4th graders aren't reading on grade level. That's a concern because these kids never catch up, and we see that when they take their ACT and the scores are not where they should be.
You know, the state has had a lot of eyes on the school system here in Hamilton County, to the point where at one point they were considering taking over some of the process. And the critical thing, and we'll get to you in just a second, Dr. Holmes, if you can't produce students that are qualified to take the jobs that are being offered in the area, that really rings a loud bell of concern.
That's true. Another thing that was highlighted from the Chattanooga 2.0 initiative is that over the next 5 years, there's going to be 15,000 jobs coming to Hamilton County, which is really good news. But we have to meet the workforce demands. We have to be able to, you know, send employees to these businesses, and they have to be qualified and ready to work day one. You know, during my research, I found that it's more and more becoming more and more frequent that employers are having to adapt programs, literacy programs, because as they hire these individuals, they can't read and write. So it's a concern.
Well, Dr. Holmes, you work with the students as a community activist, and you hear the parents. You're knocking door to door. People come to you. You're probably one of the best informational sources that I have. You have a lot of information flows through your computer.
Yes, I have a long tradition or history in the education field. I am a former dean of higher education, and I come from, I am the third generation of educators, so I sort of stay away from that as much as possible. But I'm always drawn back into it because it's in my DNA. I think it's more of how you use your resources, especially when it comes to money. And you can get a lot of money, and you can spend a lot of money, but you must use the money in an appropriate way. And I feel that what we need to address, number one, are the parents, because they are the first teachers.
Yeah, but when you get to a situation where the parents don't have a great education, how do you expect that home environment, and the question is open to all of you, how do you expect that home environment to produce scholars?
Right. Well, I have been pushing for Parent University for the past 4 years, and everyone I come in contact with knows when I open my mouth, I'm going to say
We're going to hear
a
about
parent
that.
university.
Briefly, what is a
And
parent
a parent
university?
university provides the tools for the parents to be advocates for their children, to be their first teachers, to encourage them to be bright students and instill in them the importance of an education. There are parent universities all around the United States. This is nothing new. I like the one in Charlotte because they have theirs online, they have the curriculum online, and they offer the parent university at the convenience of the parents. Could be in school, could be in the church, could be in the Youth and Family Development Center, it could be online, wherever the parents are and whatever their needs are. This is what Parent University is all about, empowering the parents.
Well, Joe, as a new person on board, what is empowering to you about your position?
Well, I wanted to touch for just a second, if I could, on what Dr. Holmes said. A lot of that comes from a community school concept or model, which we call it a model now, but as a student growing up, it wasn't a model, it was just a way of life. That everything happened around the schoolhouse. Schools were the hubs of the community, not just the place where children went during the day to be educated, but those buildings were made use of even after school hours and on weekends, and we've gotten away from that. And so,
what prevents us from adopting that model now?
I don't think anything prevents us other than being able to come together as a community and even as a school system and say, you know, we value these facilities and we value our communities, and we want to allow the community to make use of those facilities for a parent university or for extra educational opportunities. Typically at our secondary schools right now, for the most part, students and families are not on that campus after school hours unless their student is involved in some extracurricular activity.
What's the reason for that? Because we know in Hamilton County, 80+%, or a minimum of 80% of the money spent is for salaries and staff. So you only have 20% for the education process. Is that part of the problem?
I think yes and no. I really think it's more a perspective of how we go about as a school system impacting our community. And I think a lot of what Dr. Holmes has touched on is right. It's we would all say we need more parent involvement, but we also have to create an environment where parents feel welcomed and also feel like they have opportunities to get involved. And I don't think that's always the case or has been the case in our school system here recently.
One of the funny things that has happened, we had the mayor of Chattanooga on just a couple of weeks ago, Mayor Andy Burke, and he was here with another guest talking about Baby University. So we have old and the new, and the how-tos to be a good parent educating your child at home, and how to produce good children that have the nutrition and et cetera, so that they can perform mentally in schools. So when you look at your budget, do you think your money is being well spent?
That is something that you really do have to ask the school board, because the way it works right now, there's $417 million going to the Department of Education for their budget. It's 60% pretty much of every dollar's going there. So, you know, it's up to them. What we do is we approve the budget, and then when we approve the budget, we have no say in how those funds are allocated. You know, I would really like to see us have a more active role in how the funds are being allocated.
Do you think it's likely that they would give up that power?
Well, I don't want it to be a power struggle. I want us to work together, and that's one thing. Joe and I are building a very good working relationship, because really to get things done at any level, you have to have that good working relationship. I have to have a good working relationship with my school board member, and with my state representative, and with my city council representative. One thing we've done in our district, which I think every district needs to start doing, as I sat down and met with my principals, what I found more of the complaints I was hearing had to do with things that were being handled at the state level.
Such as?
So maybe a mandate, a law, an old law on the book that's prohibiting them from doing something they desperately need to do. So what we started doing was sitting down, and twice a year, the state representatives sit down with all the principals, and they sit and they talk openly and candidly. Joe was able to attend one of those meetings right after being sworn into office, and everyone leaves there learning something.
Dr.
You know, I
Holmes?
think
Yes.
target spending is an excellent approach. You mentioned Mayor Burke. I recently mentioned to him occupational tax. I know when I lived in New York, we paid occupational tax.
What is that?
And that's where if you live outside of the county or the city, you charge tax on, payroll tax for that, and it's called occupational tax. That money can be used towards targeting specific goals that you want to achieve in education.
One of the things that seems to be lacking, and a number of political candidates have all been lightly beating the drums, and we don't have a technical school here. Not everybody is college material or wants to be.
That's true.
And it's honorable to work with your hands, and there's very good living to be made out there. What kind of attention, or do you think there's any opportunity for that to bubble up a little higher priority?
But aren't they putting in the schools, I think Tyner and some of the other schools had a pathway type program or something of that nature. They were experimenting with 2 years ago, and they are putting them in various schools. But you were talking about a technical school like you had at Kirkman.
I can tell you at the last school board meeting, something that I'm really passionate about is technical education. I've also struggled with the idea of our school system financially getting involved in that as far as brick and mortar. And what I have said and what was said at our last school board meeting is that there's plenty of technical training in our city from the industry that is here. We need to make that accessible to our students. And right now there's a mechatronics academy going on at the Volkswagen site, which includes Tyner students, East Hamilton students, Ooltewah, and Central. And right now it's 25. They're going to grow it to 100. They want to expand to other industries, and I think it's going to be a phenomenal exercise.
That's your point. It needs to expand up into tens of thousands of students. Right. Because we applaud what's going on.
Exactly.
Joe Wingate, best of luck to you. And I ask you, why on earth did you take the job? But you've given us a good explanation.
We're glad he did.
Yeah, Dr. Holmes, always a pleasure to have you. And Sabrina Smetley, thank you very much. You have a big job ahead of you, and when I describe you as a rising star, a lot of people are looking at what you're doing, and it seems like you're heading in the right direction.
Well, thank you.
All right. Listen, our show is called Point of View, and when we come back, we'll be talking about something that's this: the difference between your gift and your purpose. What is it? Stay tuned when Point of View continues.
Join us for Point of View, weekends on News 12 Now.
So I've come up with a family emergency plan.
Great. What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
How will we know what to do?
You won't.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
And me too. Thanks for this, sweetie.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere will bring us wireless emergency alerts. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Hello and welcome back to Point of View. We're talking about the difference between your purpose and your gift. How do you do the measurements? Well, we're going to go on the biblical side here a little bit with Pastor Jerome T. Rogan, is it?
Yes, sir.
Welcome. And what's the name of your church?
The church is Transforming Faith Baptist Church.
Now, I didn't know this when I invited my friend Tanisha to be with us today. Tanisha Irving, she's a media personality, obviously. I didn't know that you were also a member of this church.
I am. I'm a member, and my husband is actually the minister of music there.
Man, I'm surrounded, you know. So being with you two here, does this count as me going to church?
Yes, yes, hopefully.
All right.
Hopefully.
So put in a good word for me. So let's talk about the difference between your gift and your purpose. How did you come up with this as a sermon that you recently delivered?
One of the things that I found out about your gift and your purpose, oftentimes your gift is something that you're good at. But when it comes to your purpose is always points back to people. Being gifted and being talented, oftentimes that could be self-serving. But when it comes to your gift, it points back to people. And one of the things, a prime example is LeBron James. He took his giftedness and his talents as basketball, and then he catapulted that into philanthropy and all the things that he's done in the community. The gift was the foundation of what he's doing now, and that is exposing his talent and his purpose.
Okay, he is an exception. In some cases, you have like a David Rodman or Dennis Rodman on the other end. He had a gift.
That's correct.
And a talent, but
That's
where
correct.
did his purpose come in at?
That's correct. Interesting that you should say that. Oftentimes people, you and I, we all have gifts and we all have talents. But what we find often that we're taught from children to go find what you're good at, go to school, get a degree in that, and then make a lot of money. Oftentimes we're never taught in regards to, hey, grow up and fulfill your purpose in life.
Well, how do you fulfill your, listen, you've heard him preach before.
Yes.
What do you take of all of this?
I take it very seriously, actually, and I've implemented it to my life. And I think that I concur with everything that my pastor has said here, that when you have a gift, it's something that you're good with. It's something that you're born with. And then your purpose is when you combine that gift with your talent, your skills, things that you've worked with, and something that is greater than you. And so I've been able to apply that to my life by just doing some soul searching, kind of writing down things that I'm great with, done some assessments, done some leadership classes, and it all kind of starts to say the same thing for me. Like, I'm an encourager. I love to encourage people. I have great compassion for people. And discovering that with my professional career, it's been able to just kind of guide my life and streamline my life. And when I know that this is my purpose, I cannot be distracted by things that are not.
But you work with two purposes, because you have your professional hat, and then you have the other hat that you put on when you're on the radio.
Yes, I do. So, but that is a part of me encouraging. So the radio portion of it, I'm really passionate about informing and empowering the community. And so that's a part of my gift and my purpose. I have a great personality that blends well. But on the professional side, my personality, my gift of being able to connect with people and different people on all different levels, that has to do with my gift and personality of being an encourager. So that translates really well to my sales career as well.
Well, I'm the kind of person that might say, well, you don't need to go to church in order to learn how to do this. What's the value of coming to listen to you or any other minister about how to make this connection?
One of the things, gifts and talents, they all come from God. And there's no better way than to get into the streamline of what your purpose is by doing it through God. It says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, lean not to thy own understanding. In all ways,
but
acknowledge
is this a
Him.
philosophy that is outside of, or internally more so for the Baptists, which is, your church is called the?
Transforming Faith Baptist.
Transforming Faith.
Yes.
Okay, is this mainly a Baptist tradition, or would you find this in Catholicism or Buddhism?
It's biblically founded. Biblically founded.
Okay.
Because the guidance, it leads you into your purpose. And oftentimes, you'll find people, that spend their entire life trying to achieve the American dream, trying to achieve money, chasing all the other things, but they never take the time out to say, why was I created? What am I created to do?
Well, now, see, you're going to open up another door there when you're talking about chasing money or what have you, because we can get on some preachers here that are really making a phenomenal amount of money for interpreting this book with a jet plane. But let's go back a little bit to your, I don't want to get off on that, but I am definitely not a fan of that type of ministry. But for what you do, and I've had an opportunity to meet several people that say that your services are not traditional, that there's more of a conversation that happens.
I would totally agree with that. Pastor Rogan does a great job of just, as they say, keeping it real. He's really authentic. When he's up giving the word, he actually comes down from the pulpit and comes down to be more personal.
Right,
I do too. And you know, if you get to a lot of traditional churches, that's kind of frowned upon in some places, but I really enjoy it because he comes down and he steps down and says, hey, I'm just like, you know, we're the same, we're one. We have the same issues and things we deal with, but let me show you what I've learned in my role and my leadership and my experiences, and what applies to me can also apply to you, because God is not a respecter of persons. So it's awesome, and basically that's like the underlining theme with all of his messages, is that there's always hope there, and there's always that testimony to say someone's been through it, they've recovered from it, so that's good news for you. How
do you separate your gift and your purpose? Let me go along with the banger set, with the younger set, the younger millennials. Some of their idols are, you know, with the sagging and the dreads, and their idols wear this crap as costumes on stage, but it's transcended to the streets. And in particular, separating purpose from gift. Look at Jay-Z, for instance, dope dealer for many years, wrecked a lot of families, sold a lot of poison in our communities, but yet he's exalted. Put that picture together for me.
Well, prime example of missing your purpose. But Jay-Z, from where he came from the streets to where he is now, Jay-Z is a very successful businessman also. But how does that play into his overall purpose? Look at the lives now of those who see Jay-Z not as a dope dealer, but now see Jay-Z as the businessman.
Well, the same could apply for 50 Cent. I mean, he poisoned a lot of people's family with that crap that he was selling, but now look at him now, he's turned the corner. So how do you advise young people to do the same thing?
Well, one of the things I can speak, for instance, with my life, the same lifestyle that Jay-Z came from, I came from that same lifestyle. I put out rap albums, I was on MTV, been on soundtracks for music also, but God led me in another direction.
That's one of the things that intrigued me about you, that you have an opportunity, you have the skills to do that, you've already demonstrated that you know how, but now you've chosen to live modestly, lead a flock, and give up the bright lights, the glamour, and all that came with it.
That's true.
Why?
Because it goes back to I found my purpose. One of the things that I felt that music done for me, it enabled me to stand before large crowds, open up for a lot of different acts, was on MTV, so I've been there and I've done it. So now when I'm in the pulpit on Sunday mornings, to me, that's very relaxing. I can come from behind God's desk, walk out amongst the people, and I don't need notes to do it. I don't have to carry the Bible around. I should be a walking Bible with my life. My whole life is a testimony to all the other young men that they can come off of the streets, come off out of rap, come out of all of that negativity, do something positive, go back to school, and now I work at corporate America for TVA. So I think that I am the epitome of what God can do.
How do you convince young people that they can find their purpose and combine the purpose and their gift without coming to church? You come in contact with a lot of our young people. Your show is very popular. What station is it on, by the way?
Thank you. It's on Brewer Media's Groove 93, Sundays at 4:30. Check out the Tanisha Irvin Show. But one of the things that I found to be really successful when trying, because I just like to have an emotional appeal. I like to try to really have some sort of attachment with people and build that relationship when I'm speaking to young people especially. And I just kind of ask them, what does your future look like? What do you see yourself in a year from now, in 3 years from now? And believe it or not, a lot of them, they don't know. They're living for the moment.
Exactly. They don't have that basic brick.
They don't have that basic brick. And so that kind of starts the foundation when you get them thinking beyond the present, because a lot of them are just living in the moment, and what they see on MTV or what they see the latest Jay-Z album, what Beyonce is living, that's not real life. That's what they're putting out, and they're accepting that as reality and what they want to appeal to be. But if you're trying to live to be like Beyonce, you're never going to find out and dig deep and figure out who you are. And I think that there's kind of like 3 stages of trying to find your purpose. One is just living purposeless. You're just existing. You don't know what you're doing. You're going through the motions. It feels like you're just always going through chaotic things. And then you go through a phase where you're like, I want to figure out what it is to this, what it is to my life. And then you start searching. And then I think that's really exciting phase. And to see young people say, well, what do I want to be in 3 years? What was I born to do? I wasn't born to just be a gangbanger, was I? Surely not. Surely not. So let's do some soul searching, let's do some assessments, let's kind of dig deep and see what are your gifts, and that's a great starting point.
One of the things that we find in a lot of communities, of not just of color, but a lot of young people don't have a real vision about life expectancy. They don't really have a vision about living until they're 50 or 40.
Sad but true.
Well, you know, a lot of that is very much based on the environment. You find people that are in hopeless situations where, like you said before, the people that they idolize, those are the Jay-Z's, those are the 50 Cents, prior to them coming into being
exactly.
businessmen.
So it can confuse the young minds that are out there. And what's really interesting is we want to talk more and have you back to talk about some of the feedback that you get from your listeners on radio, because people listen to radio that don't watch television and vice versa, and I think we have an opportunity to combine. And I'm not promising you that I'm ever coming to your church, but I will say this, if I do start, one of the things that I noticed when I moved here from Boston, people would say, hi, what's your name? And I'd say, Maurice, you know, and they would say, well, where do you go to church? And I'm saying, my God, they're recruiting like football. You know, you all do that down here. You all want to know who's going where.
Yes, sir. Yes,
where's your church located?
It's located at 1321 Northmore Road.
Okay, and you just have services on Sunday, or is it like Baptist church all day, all the time?
Our services are 9:15 on Sunday mornings. Our Sunday school starts at 8:30, and our Bible study starts Wednesday nights at 6.
Pastor Rogan, I want to thank you. And Tanisha, what's your show again, and what time?
The Tanisha Urban Show, Sundays at 4:30 on Brewer Media's Groove 93.5.
And you got my buddy Bird over there, too.
I do.
All right, well, you tell everybody over there we said hello.
I will.
Thank you very much for joining us here on Point of View. And for the next week, adult daycare. You've got to do some shopping, but you're taking care of someone, and you just need a few minutes. There's a place right here in Chattanooga where you can have that done for free. That will be our show when the next Point of View airs.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.